Also good. It is good. I wanted to share this with you. We always speak about the moron factor, right?
Which is?
What?
Which is?
The moron factor is why we are a generation of little accomplishments and little meaning.
Rabbi Frank speaks about it.
So, I want to tell you what the Vatican has to say about the moron factor. Mobiles are bad for your soul, the Vatican warned yesterday.
What are?
Mobiles.
What's a mobile?
Mobile phones.
Oh!
British. Phones and computers are making the world so noisy and hectic that people cannot cultivate their spiritual dimension. And without a spiritual life, you will lose your soul, said Father Federico Lombardi, the Pope's spokesman. The Jesuit priest, who is the director of the Vatican press office, made his remarks on the weekly Vatican TV program, Octavia Dias. He said that modern advances in technology had made the world so noisy and hectic that many people were now in danger of allowing their souls to perish. And I want to point out here that because he is a Catholic, he doesn't care about your mind. Because from the Catholic perspective, lay people are not really supposed to think. But we, Jews, should add to this that not only people are in danger of allowing their souls to perish, but they have mostly lost their minds by now because of this modern technology.
Can I play devil's advocate?
No, when I finish. He was seeking to emphasize this necessity and value of the cloistered religious life, especially in the modern world. In the age of the mobile phone and the internet, it is probably more difficult than before to protect silence and to nourish the interior dimension of life, said Father Lombardi. It is difficult but necessary. I've did this in MTA with a few different classes. So in some of them, as I'm saying this, they're playing with their phones and typing away and playing on their computers. That's oblivious. Today, this is a very grave threat, but it is the most irreparable misfortune. He said, adding that if the spiritual dimension of a person was not guarded and nourished, it could become barren to the point of drying up and indeed dying. Reflection, meditation, contemplation are as necessary as breathing, he said. In the age of the mobile phone and the internet, it is more difficult than before to protect silence and so nourish interior dimensional life. It is difficult but necessary. That's the paragraphs repeated actually. He added, for believers, dialogue with God is developed in this dimension of prayer. Life in the spirit, which is more important than physical life itself. Yoshka told us not to fear those who can kill the body as much as the ones who can destroy our soul. What is true for the individual person is true for the community of the church, true for humanity, he said. So, even the Vatican knows about the moron factor. And people ask me when it started. So I said, it started in the 1950s, when television became popular. Before television, there was radio. Radio still required you to use your mind. Because when you heard the radio, if you're listening to a drama or something of that sort, you'd have to recreate the scene in your mind. So you actually would have to exercise your mind. With television, no mind is necessary. Because both the sound and the sight are being brought directly into you. You don't have to exercise your mind at all. You're completely passive. So that was the beginning of the downfall of mankind. And it accelerated in the 1980s when video games and computers started becoming rampant and widespread. And of course, since mobile phones and iPods have come into their own, now it's impossible for a human being actually to find time to think. I always am stunned by the fact that people actually can invent these things. I mean, somebody's doing the thinking to invent them, which is a remarkable thing. Those people actually in the future who are able to invent these things, which prevent people from thinking, will be the most successful people on the face of the globe.
Didn't that happen by Adam and Eve as the generations got, lower?
Yeah, but it was like this. Now it's like this.
Yeah. People today are able to think better than ever before. due to the internet and cell phones.
No, they're not.
But
They're able to
you
access
have an average
information.
person. You have an average person who can, in 15 minutes, have a greater understanding of how the solar system works than Galileo. It takes 15 minutes, 20 minutes, literally.
Who spends 15 minutes on anything anymore?
50. Okay, assuming they could spend 50 minutes on something.
They can't.
It's all the time it takes to learn more
They can't.
than
2
these
minutes.
old physicists
2
from
minutes.
400
Yeah,
years
2
ago.
minutes maybe. They can't. Nobody spends 15
Because
minutes.
somebody's thinking, we all have to do is read it, that's all.
Wait. But the
Fine,
thing
but
is-
now that they're getting,
okay,
they're getting
the
it.
moron theory, but look how much kindness people do. Look, people do so much
Well, I
kindness.
sure hope they can't think. At least they should be nice.
But that's not anything. I mean,
That's something. That's something. It's better to think and be nice than just to be nice. You can ask me whether it's better to be nice or to think. That's a legitimate question. But nowadays, people really can't think, so therefore they can only be nice.
see,
I tried this morning. It's a simple concept. I tried it with my shear. It was a particularly difficult day. Drilling it into them over and over and over again. They're incapable of thinking.
But I feel the same way for some reason.
What?
I feel the same for some reason. Like I have a Gemara, oh my god, it just doesn't go, you know?
It's just what?
It doesn't go.
Let them go.
Why did you take the Vatican stuff? There's
Because-
no Jewish sources for our retardation.
There probably are. I just happened to come across this. It's really, it really summarizes the issue quite well.
now,
It seems good, but it's like, what makes you think the Vatican has some intelligence or something?
I see that they do. Yeah.
No, that's wrong.
It says Chochma b'goyim tamid. If you see wisdom among the non-Jews, you can believe it. This is wisdom.
now,
The irony is, you said this on a television show, but okay. Yeah.
He's not saying so, he's just,
No.
oh my god, I get the joke.
now,
Where do you see us heading in the future?
What?
Where do you see us going?
I don't know. I don't know.
now,
Does
It's a
that mean
frightening thought.
if Jews keep learning Gemara, everyone else watches TV and then play iPod, will take over Israel?
Well, yeah, but it's probably not going to happen. Most Jews today are playing with their iPod as much as the non-Jews.
You get Shas on preloaded on your iPhone.
Yeah, right. And then you can just ignore it while it sits there. Yeah. Yeah.
Any ideas how to overcome this?
What?
Any ideas how to overcome this?
No.
now, do you think next
Of
generation?
course, if you're in yeshiva, it helps a lot. Because in yeshiva, you have less of those distractions. But if you're at home, you know that's almost impossible.
Now, do you think in next generation, like the moron theory, do you think next generation will be rude, very rude? Do you see it happening?
I don't know.
It could be.
I don't know. It could be. Yeah. But I don't see it. I can't tell you this. I haven't paid attention to it. Certainly the next generation won't know how to spell. Because when they text, they don't actually spell words. They just use letters. So they won't be able to spell some words like you are. They'll no longer be able to
I think
spell.
it's 2 letters.
What? That's right. It's 2 letters. Right.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yeah.
The Yerushalmi Talmud was written before Babli Talmud or after?
Before.
Okay, so it says that Mishnah was written down 120 years after the destruction of the temple. Then it says that the Talmud Yerushalmi was published 200 years after the destruction of the temple. I mean, it's a span of 80 years.
The Yerushalmi is about 80 years. That's true.
Right, but Yochanan lived in the era of Rav Nuri, no, Rav Achi, right? Rabbi Yochanan, the author of the Yerushalmi Talmud,
He lived
lived in
the same era as Rav.
right, but also the same era as what's his
Rav Ashi?
Rav Ashi. Yeah, Rav Ashi. Yeah.
No.
He didn't.
No. Rav Ashi was the 7th generation of Amoraim in Bavel. Eretz Yisrael only had 2 or 3 generations of Amoraim altogether.
So Rabbi Yochanan is considered as a Amora or Tana?
Rabbi Yochanan was one of the first Amoraim. Rav Ashi was the last.
So how does it make sense though? Like Yochanan finishes Talmud probably Yerushalmi before they finish.
Because there was tremendous persecution in Israel. They had to stop. Yerushalmi, they didn't decide, okay, now we're going to close the Talmud Yerushalmi. There was nobody to continue the work. the yeshivas were dispersed by persecutions. That's what happened in Bavel too. Nobody decided, you know what, let's end it here.
No.
But this is what happened was the tremendous persecutions, they dispersed. So that's when things just came to an end.
Now the conservative movement is picking it up again.
They're picking up what? Which one? Bavel or Yerushalmi? Yeah.
Allah.
Okay. Baruch Hashem, there's somebody to take over.
I mean, they think Bali didn't just stop. It just stopped. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Bali, the reason why periods in Jewish history change from one period to another is not because everybody gets together and says, okay, we are the last Rishonim. From now on, it's Achronim. Or they say, okay, we're the last Geonim. From now on, it's Rishonim. Or we're the last Tanoim. From now on, it's Amoroim. And so on and so forth. What happens is, one second, history has events which bring epics to a close. Thus, for example, the Yerushalmi epic was brought to a close because of the persecutions in Eretz Yisrael, which caused the sages to no longer be able to gather together in yeshivas and create what constitutes the Talmud's text. In Bavel, the same thing happened when the certain persecution came, the Chadvarim, at the end of the period of Talmud, but the Bavli. So then, again, the yeshivas were forced to disperse, and that was the end of an era. And so, when the Rishonim also, and the Rishonim also, when, according to, the Ashkenazic period of Rishonim ended earlier than the Sephardic period. I mean, the Sephardim are considered to be Rishonim for a longer period of time than the Ashkenazim, because the main centers of Torah were in the Sephardic countries. So the Sephardic period of Rishonim ends approximately in 1492 with the expulsion from Spain, right? That was the end of an epoch. Later on, it's my belief that in times to come, if Mashiach doesn't come soon, so people look back at the Holocaust and say the Holocaust ended the era of the Achronim. Now, of course, there were carryovers, right? Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who survived from before the Holocaust till after the Holocaust. Rav Elyashiv, people like that. But generally speaking, I think in retrospect, the Holocaust will be seen as ending the period of the Achronim. And then comes the period of the morons. Yeah.
Is that us?
That's us. Yes.
Rabbi, the Rambam lived after the Spain execution.
What?
Oh, so the Ramban.
No, what are you talking about?
The
The Rambam lived in the Rambam lived in the 1100s and the Ramban in the 1200s. And the Spanish expulsion was in the late 1400s.
Why did Rambam move to Israel for?
Which the
Ramban.
Ramban?
Yeah.
Because they wanted to kill him, because after the disputation which he had with the Christians, he published his account of how he won the debate.
Right, but King was amazed by
King
the
was
debate.
a Christian.
He was amazed by the debate, but
Right.
he didn't touch him. So why?
Because he was afraid, because the Vatican pressured the king to kick the road. They wanted the king to kill the Ramban, but he had to send him into exile.
Fine.
Okay, the rest of the Jews stayed behind.
There's a great movie about it. They're all killed? Massacred? They're all killed, or
Who was all killed?
the Jews that left in Spain? After Ramban's departure?
No, they weren't all killed.
Because they were hunting after Ramban. Okay, fine. Forget that. Okay, but...
Sure.
I get it, thank you. But you said that a lot of Sephardim, Achronim, and I'm sorry, Rishonim, right? So now they look change. Things slightly changed.
Right.
It's majority. I would say,
The Sephardim never recovered from the Spanish expulsion.
That's the answer.
They never recovered. Absolutely. That was it. Sephardim been down to the dumps for the last 500 some odd years.
Did the Ashkenazim recover from the Holocaust?
Nobody. That's an open question, but we can't decide now. It's too soon, right? I assume not. I said before you came in.
Yeah, there were no significant Sephardi Dillim after.
There are, but many fewer, and with far less impact.
I would say
Rishonim, most of them were Sephardim. The Ramban, the Rashba, the Ritva, the Rif, the Ran. These are all Sephardim, right? Among the Achronim, of great stature, there are very few.
Oh,
So you say the decline is also is only because of the Spanish shikulim.
Not only, but that's really what drove a nail in the wall.
Maybe
what's
Spain
our
itself was a
Achronim
good ground.
What?
Maybe Spain itself was a good place for them to be developed.
Yeah, okay. So then,
The environmental,
uh-huh.
I don't know.
Rabbi, but
So,
Yeah, so what would be considered our Rishonim and Achronim?
by Ashkenazim,
Yeah, I mean names.
by Ashkenazim, our Rishonim are Rashi, Tosfos, the Rosh, I'm sorry? No, Rashi was Sephardi. The Mordechai is one of the later ones. He's in the back of the Gemaras, right? He's in the early 1300s. So the era, he's almost more or less the end of the Rishonim. That goes Ashri, which is a commentary on the Rosh. These are all in the early 1300s.
Why did they end? Because of the Crusades?
What? Yes, it seems also because of the Crusades and the persecutions. The Maharil was like on the border. The Maharil is the source of many Ashkenazi customs. So he was like on the border between Rishonim and Achronim, and he lived in the 1300s. German, yeah.
Can Nachman disagree with
What?
Can Nachman disagree with the
Wait a second. You can only tell an epic in retrospect, right? So at the time that the epic is changing, of course there are going to be crossovers. The only exception to that rule, the only place that was really a clean, almost a clean break, is between the Tanoim and Amoraim. But even there, between the Tanoim and Amoraim, there were crossover personalities. Where it says Rab Tanu Palik, Rabbi Chia really was of the same category. He was still considered a Tana, but he doesn't appear in any Mishnayos. He only appears in Brises. And some say that Rabbi Yochanan also was kind of a transition figure. So there are always transition figures in the interim, but the Tanoim are only really clean break when they say Rabbi Nasi is the most clean break. They say Rabbi Nasi was really brought the area of Tanoim to a close. All other epics afterwards just ended kind of ambiguously, not in a clear-cut manner. So yes, you can still argue. Many Achronim argue Rishonim, right? And certainly nowadays, many morons argue in Achronim. But, you'll be able to see.
That's a Hebrew word for
Retrospect.
morons.
What?
I'm curious, that's a Hebrew word for morons.
They say that after Achronim come the Tachtonim. That's what they say.
Really,
It's not the official name. Yeah.
What are these examples of Achronim disagree with Rishonim?
There are many examples. The Gra disagrees with Rishonim a lot. He says, Tosfos is wrong about this and things like that. But yeah,
So what does Tana and Amora mean?
it means something else in the Gemara than it means in our parlance. In the Gemara, when it says Tana, it's talking about, what does it mean when it talks about Tana in the Gemara?
We taught in the
What?
Tana.
In the Batei Medrash of that time, they didn't have computers with CDs which had all of Shas and posting on them. So therefore, they had a special guy or special guys who were called the Tanoim. Tanoim means to say over, and their job was to memorize as many brises, Mishnayos and brises as possible, and they served like the hard drive, the repository of knowledge in the base medrash.
Wasn't every Tana supposed to have a full knowledge of?
They didn't. In other words, these specialized people had memory, and in true Litvisher tradition, they were looked down upon a little bit, because it seemed they knew a lot, but they weren't big lamdonim.
The Kias guys.
Yeah, the Kias guys. Yeah, they knew a lot.
Why would Hasidim look down on them? Why would Hasidim look down?
We associate disdain with being Litvish. Hasidim don't have the same disdain for people that the Litvish have, right?
Yeah.
So this is true. But as time went by, and an Amora also had a specific job. An Amora was the broadcaster. But the way Rosh Hashiva used to give shir is he used to whisper into the ears of the Amora, and the Amora had a loud voice, and he would broadcast what he just heard from the Rosh Hashiva to the assembled masses, right? So it's an even lower level than a Tana. He obviously has to be able to understand what the Rosh Hashiva is telling him in order to repeat it, but he's an even lower level than a Tana. As time went by, these became borrowed terms. The period of sages who wrote the Mishnah became known as Tanoim, and the period of sages who wrote the Gemara became known as Amoraim. But initially, those names had totally different meanings. And in the Gemara, they have these different meanings. Yeah.
Back to talking about Sephardi. Wouldn't you agree that because of communism being around for a century,
What?
affected also the Communist Party in Russia would had also a big effect, significant effect of wiping out the
Yeah, but that's not both Sfardim and Ashkenazim. The communists didn't discriminate.
right. So plus in addition to Spain's execution, the thing, and then we move out.
Yeah, but they're 500 years in between, 450 years. You
And there's
understand?
nobody in 500 years span to
What?
there's nobody in 500 years span to recover.
No.
Okay, I want to.
But the Spanish was in the Spanish Revolution was in 1492, and the Russian persecutions really, the communist persecutions were in the 1900s.
Right.
So
A lot of things happen.
a lot of things happened in between.
Are the Italians considered Sephardim or?
Italians are considered more Sephardim, but not for any good reason.
Because we do have some figures.
Yeah, so they're really not. They're a min b'fnei atzmam. Really.
They did not come from the Spain too?
No, they came directly from Eretz Yisrael.
So the majority.
After the destruction of the temple, no.
So the majority of Italians are Sephardim.
They're not.
Oh, they're not. So
They're not. They're their own thing. They're associated with Sephardim because they're not Ashkenazim. In Minhag Italy is a separate minhag in and of itself. It's not. It's Ashkenaz. It's not Sfard.
Do they go to the opera?
But I guess if they enjoyed opera, they went to the opera. I don't know.
Even though they are women singing.
No, they shaved. That was a big thing. They were clean shaven. The Italians.
Yeah, I mean, they safeguard the synagogues now like nobody's business.
Yeah,
You
but
get a special license to get no. from
yeah, but
the
nobody's
rabbi.
davening there.
Jurisdiction. Yeah.
Nobody's davening there. They're empty shuls. They're just like museums.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they're very few.
None of them are active?
No, they're few, but there are many more shuls than there are people
Yeah.
in Italy today. Now, we should know that Mussolini was not Hitler. Mussolini, I always had a soft spot for Mussolini. He really didn't want to kill the Jews or persecute them. Towards the end of the war, Hitler compelled him to do some persecution, but Mussolini himself, he was okay with the Jews.
He was a good guy, Heidi.
What?
He was a good guy.
I wouldn't go far as to say he was a good guy. A good guy he wasn't, but he wasn't as bad as the other guy.
Didn't the Brits have an island on Cyprus?
Sorry?
The British have an island in Cyprus?
An internment camp. Yeah,
It's like a little.
What?
Isn't that near Italy?
Yeah, but it wasn't anything to do with Italy. No, Cyprus is closer to Israel and Lebanon.
That's part of it.
No, it's not. But Corsica is part of it.
Cyprus goes to Greece, right?
Of course, goes to France. What?
Cyprus goes to Greece, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just have one last question, because it says a lot of times in the Gemara, like didn't we learn in the Brisa, like you should know this. So what? So like,
No.
does it mean that like?
So you should know that in fact, if you find that, then it's a rarity. Usually, an Amora was not expected to know all Brisas. Some famous Brisas he was expected to know, but there were so many Brisas that you really needed to check with a Tana if you needed to find, do research in Brisas. Most Tanoim did not know all the Brisas.
They did not have the Baranam software then?
I'm sorry?
Did not have the Baranam?
No, they didn't have a search engine for the. I mean, I guess you gave the Tana. By the way, there are people who have a special talent. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, every Shabbos when he was alive, used to give hours and hours and hours of Divrei Torah. Hours. And there was this chassid who's still alive there, Rabbi Yoel Khan, who after Shabbos, he said over word for word exactly what the Lubavitcher Rebbe said in those hours that he spoke. So there's a unique talent which some people have.
Is that the L'chaim letters that they send out? You know the L'chaim letters they send out weekly?
Well, whatever that is, it's very watered down. It's not the original.
Yeah, they have the weekly. They have the weekly Dvar Malchus.
That's based on this.
You have the distinction between Muge and not Muge. Muge is when they after he wrote that, they give it to the Babich Rebbe to,
right,
and then he would put references.
Right, right.
Which is also something chiddush. It's not anything. It came from the academic world, but
yeah,
they don't.
How do you know if an event is so significant that it causes like a certain period to end, like a whole era, so to say?
You're only going to be able to tell 200 or 300 years later. You're not going to be able to tell at the time, right? And, in the 1500s, people weren't going around saying, "Oy vey, the number of Rishonim, the period of Rishonim is over," right? In the 1600s, they looked back and said, something happened. We're not the same as they were back in the 1400s.
They don't make them the same way.
Right. So, yeah.
How come?
But you can see that today in the Jewish world. In the Jewish world today, you can see there's a remarkable phenomenon which had never happened before, which is today, in the Ashkenazic Jewish world, there is one posek. And in the Sephardic Jewish world, there is one posek. The one posek, supreme posek for Ashkenazim, is Rabbi Yosef. The one posek, supreme posek for the Sephardim, is Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. How could this be? There are hundreds and thousands of capable Talmidei Chachamim. But there is an intuition in Klal Yisrael, which is that they are left over from a different generation. And they still are the last vestige of something which is fading away. And when they're gone, after many years in Mitzvah Hashem, that period will be totally over.
Isn't that like non-progressivism?
What?
Isn't that like just another non-progressivism saying that, that they've been...
What do you mean by non-progressive?
Okay, so what's going to jumpstart the new age of those Gedolim? Like, what's going to allow those new Gedolim to fill in their shoes, and then is it going to stay like that?
Reish Lakish said, Reish Lakish Namora, he said, "Bo v'nachzik tov alav hosenu." Let's be grateful to our forefathers who left Egypt. She'amalei chatu, if had they not sinned, Onu krish lo bana olam, would be as if we never existed. Meaning, had these great people who left Egypt not sinned with the golden calf and became mortal again, they would have survived forever. So we would have been born, but we would be, nothings. We'd be ants. So you are only progressive. You can only be truly progressive once all the previous generation is gone. And then it levels the playing field. And among all the new people, you'll have, this, I don't know if competition is the right word, but this sorting out of who's at the top.
I think, after, these Gedolim should go, but will there be a variety of
there'll be many more Gedolim.
Or will there be another main posek? Like how will the hierarchy then cease to exist or continue to exist?
I think the hierarchy will cease to exist. I can't tell you for sure, that's my hunch though. Because this is an aberrant situation. There was never a period in Klal Yisrael like this before. Perhaps, I should take that back, perhaps when Rabbi Yosef Karo was alive, before he passed away, or when the Rambam was alive before he passed away, perhaps there was a similar situation. But these are hundreds of years apart, these situations,
but
right?
They don't follow Yosef necessarily.
Yeah, but that's because they don't follow anybody. They don't follow their own Rabbonim either.
Who's they?
No, they do follow.
No, they don't. No. The modern Orthodox.
Is there
the main?
I don't understand.
No, they don't. No.
How can Rosh Hashiva cannot be Achronim?
What?
Rosh Hashiva, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he fits for Achronim. I'm for Namora. Achronim. He fits the category of Achronim.
Maybe.
Why not though?
I didn't say he didn't.
No, but I'm saying, because if you look at him, there's so many yeshivas there.
Listen, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein finished Shulchan Aruch Yeridea in his lifetime over 200 times.
Wow, is that what?
Okay, people are not doing it anymore. Even people like Rabbi Shor was a great person. It's just not happening anymore.
I mean, it's just, what's preventing this type of accomplishment?
Oh, you missed that. You came late. The moron factor.
Rabbi, but they don't use phones, Rabbi. They're on the phone then.
Vatican warns of the corrupting influence of mobile phones and the internet on our souls.
They? Oh, really?
Rabbi, but they know the phone is, Rabbi. I'm telling you.
I think there also
They
could
don't
be
use
another
that
thing.
thing.
I think there also be another thing that, like, the reason why, I mean, even that, besides that, it could be that, like, people nowadays are going to go lower because, like, the common denominator of, like, the generation is, like, a lower factor. So, like, if you want to, like, be part of your generation, not be, like, a hermit, you have to be, like, at a lower level. Than,
Right, you have to dumb yourself down, of course. Yeah. Otherwise, people look like you're a weirdo. Yeah.
Rabbi, I don't understand. You follow the instructions. Learn the holy law. Stag, as they say, no? Why didn't you succeed? Like Rosh Hashanah.
All success is relative.
Right, I mean, I'd say as great as Rosh
There's such a thing
You're
as
not going to be
among that, right?
There's not going to be people who have that capacity to just utterly focus. I mean, halavai. Were it to be so, but the assumption is it's not. The entire system is not geared to produce anybody like that anymore.
So when
the yeshiva system, is geared for morons, right? In other words, there's a recognition that we are morons and that we have to have a curriculum which is suitable for morons and a system which is suitable for morons. So you become a more chashuv moron,
So that's
right? You become a greater, a more learned moron, but you're still learning 10 blot a year, right? You're still learning 15 blot a year be'iyun, right?
So that's
You ain't getting to 200 times Yeridea.
Yeah, it's much scholarly. It's been diminished. The scholastic, like just that focus. It seems, you know.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it.
Just scholastically, it seems like it's gone down.
Of course, absolutely.
Diminished.
Well, you should know that I think I told you this. I have one of my Talmudim from Chicago who became non-Orthodox and Orthodox again. Did I tell him?
No.
Right.
He's Batshuva? He's real Batshuva. Oh.
So he said, you know, he went to University of Chicago and then to Yale, and you know he saw as bad.
Jew.
What?
Typical Jew.
Yeah, as bad as it is in the yeshivas, it's much worse. The dumbing down is much worse in the colleges, because basically the way he put it is, you have to try and limit the curriculum to what a person who's going to go through an entire semester in a drunken stupor can master in a short amount of time that he's sober in between, which is not very long.
How do you explain the technological success of the world?
What?
How do you, seriously, how do you explain the technological progress of the world that seems to accelerate? Like Moore's law continues to double the number of circuits that fit on a chip in this generation. Like, how do you explain that?
I don't know enough about technology to tell you why that's self-sustaining, but I don't think there are any great new developments going on.
Innovation, yeah.
It's all refinement, miniaturization, compacting more transistors onto a wafer of silicon.
Lack of original creation.
Sorry?
Lack of originality.
Right.
Lack of
Not day by day, but
We're all building on the same technology which built the transistor radio in the 1950s. Just the transistors are much smaller.
Yeah, but our lives don't resemble post 1985. Now we use cell phones and cars that are not the same, and computers that are not the same. Everything's...
They're all upgraded. Yeah.
Yeah, it's upgraded. I don't think there's much... I don't sense, even though, there's a lot more technology... from when I was a kid in the 1970s till today, I don't sense that much of a difference.
Don't you feel the internet is a great development? I mean, people get access to information just by the moment.
Right.
You have a lot of information. People know
it's a
more.
terrible
People know
thing.
more.
No, they don't. They have access to more information. They know much less. When people have to actually remember things, they knew more. Now nobody has to remember anything anymore. It's right there on Wikipedia. Why do you have to remember it?
Who goes to libraries anymore,
Yeah. You go to the library to use the internet.
Computer.
Yeah, get on the computer, right.
Are there any yeshivas geared to produce in the next Rebbe Eliashivs, or
No.
that's just
No,
we're out of that era?
Not only that, most yeshivas have nowadays at least elementary and high schools, have problems dealing with brilliant kids. Because any outlier is a problem. Kid is not too bright, and kid is too bright is problematic.
Sure.
We're very good at mediocre kids, and we're not so good at the brilliant ones or the terrible ones. Yeah.
How about the curriculum in yeshiva in general? The study curriculum which states that we have to study Talmud with Shadim Achronim, and that's the basic. That's mostly what you have to
Right, so that's left over from Volozhin. In Volozhin, they used to do that, and they used to do a blot a day. Now they do it, and they do a blot every 2 weeks. So that's the difference.
Well, how about Hasidism, Kabbalah, and philosophy? Do you think it's a good thing that you don't study on a regular basis?
No, but that's not relevant to this issue of greatness. Because even we did study Hasidus and Kabbalah and all that, and still we would just study it in the same superficial, random way we study everything else. We're very good at that.
Right.
Any optimists left in this room at the moment?
No, really, Rabbi, that's what I'm trying to say. That being the
Take
case.
the Vatican. Take the Vatican. They have some
What
good
am I doing
ideas.
here, Rabbi?
What?
Well, that being the case, what am I doing here?
Are you having fun?
No, I mean, like,
Are you having fun?
But that's not where I live, no?
Why not?
To have fun?
Yeah.
That's
No.
folly.
What?
What's fun
Kohelet
if you're
says
dumb?
fun is not the point.
Where does he say that?
What?
Where does he say that?
He says the only point is to serve Hashem and keep the commandments. Everything else is hevel.
Sof Devar, so Kimi Ra, that's mitzvos of Shmor.
I'm actually a masochist. I don't live for fun.
Yira, it says the main reason you're alive is for Yiras Hashem, right? That's how Chayla says.
That doesn't synonymous with fun though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, the Tan of Eliyahu says, Ani samachni mitoch yirasi, v'yaresi mitoch simchasi. Yira and simcha. Of course, there's no Hebrew word for fun. I don't mean fun in the sense that we're going down roller coasters over time, right?
Why not?
But because we can't, because the lines are too long. But but Yira and simcha go together. In other words, if you are involved in Yiras Hashem, and even if you can't be a great genius, which most of us are not going to be, and even if you're not going to be a great scholar, which most of us are not going to be, but you are here in the system working on your Yiras Hashem. And having Yiras Hashem is the main cause for simcha which a person can have. So that's why we're here. We're here not because we're going to achieve to be Rav Yoshis. We're not. But nevertheless, we can achieve, according to our Madrega, Yiras Hashem. And Yiras Hashem is the ultimate Chachma. Chazal say, the Pasuk says, Hein Yiras Hashem hi levado Chachma. Yiras Hashem, that is Chachma. And Chazal say, Hein here means one. There's only one true wisdom, which is Yiras Hashem. And Yiras, that Reish is Chachma Yiras Hashem. It's the beginning and end of all wisdom is Yiras Hashem. So even though that expertise in halacha, or that expertise in Shas, or poskim of any sort, we're not going to have, that's not the end goal, and that's not the end purpose. The end purpose is to have Yiras Hashem.
Why can't I achieve without them? Why should you without learning Torah? Do that. Okay, fine, I'll do it. That's it. Yiras Shamayim, here.
I didn't understand a word you just said.
Okay, fine.
How about a guy who had a tremendous Yiras Shamayim?
That's right.
Well, why have all the knowledge in Torah, of Shas, Chumash, this, that?
That makes you more Yiras Shamayim.
No, you look at the video, care video every day. You think, oh,
That's not Yiras Hashem.
Yes, it is.
No, that's Yiras Onesh. You're afraid of getting zapped.
Yes.
You're afraid of getting punished.
Yes.
That's not Yiras Hashem.
What the
Yiras Hashem is awe of the majesty and grandeur and splendor of Hashem. You can't get there unless you learn. How else are you going to know?
You have to sit mamash, don't learn the Gemara, just read the print out, don't have to summarize it, that's it.
Summarizes what?
Just read the summary of...
If you see a summary of Gemara, you won't be impressed with the wisdom which is there. It won't make you appreciate how divine this knowledge is, how extraordinary it is to study it. The process is much more important than the end.
Question is
The thrill one gets by learning a sugya in depth. You can't get by reading the conclusion. That's the idea, that's the fundamental idea which underlies any justification of our system, which is that in order for us to achieve Yiras Hashem, we have to learn. And in order for us to achieve Yiras Hashem, we have to learn in depth. And even though we're not going to learn very much, but it's worth learning in depth because it gives us a greater awe and reverence and love of Torah.
The act is greater than the reward.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like Chazal say, Lo lecham l'chalikmar. Right? The work is not for you to complete.
That's Pirkei Avos.
What?
That's Pirkei Avos.
Yeah. Right, the work is not for you to complete, but you can't forsake it.
How does it make sense? If
What doesn't make sense?
If you don't make the finish line, I don't care what you did before, you can make the finish line. That's it.
No! The finish line doesn't matter!
Why not?
There is no finish line!
I died. Is that finish line?
That's just arbitrary. You dropped out of the race. So you didn't get to the finish line. There is no finish line. Where does one finish?
How about one
As the Chazal say, one of the Amora Tanoim, that's another Amora. Can I go now and start learning Chochmah Yivanis? Right? Greek. I finished learning all Torah. Can I go learn Chochmah Yivanis? Greek wisdom. So the other ones that, what do you mean finish? There is no end, right? So the time when it's not day or night, then you can go learn it because it says Vayisa v'yom v'layla. Okay, it's an interesting word. It requires more explanation. But the point is, there's no end to learning. There's no end. You can't say I finished.
How did Maimonides interpret that?
What?
How did the Rambam interpret that?
To dedicate oneself exclusively to Chochmah Yivanis. He wanted to say, okay, I finished Torah. Let's go on to this.
Right.
It's not according to Rambam.
So you have to have a curriculum. You have to.
Yeah.
Right. Well, how about the guy that he has a tremendous fear of Shemayim, but let's say he doesn't believe in 13 principles of faith?
Then that's contradiction in terms.
Probably his destination. Well, why contradiction? He might just did not.
That doesn't have it's the wrong Shemayim.
What?
He doesn't have your Shemayim. That's the wrong Shemayim.
Why? He believed. I mean, he did not. He did not came to believe in the principle of faith. Just because he doesn't know. Let's say he grew up in different places.
You know what the Rambam holds about the 13 principles of faith, right? Rambam holds that the reason why we kill you if you don't say 13 principles of faith is because you're a dummy, right? Either you're wicked or a dummy because these are perfectly rational and these can be demonstrated to be true. So therefore, I'm not saying we have to take as far as the Rambam does, but to a certain extent we do, which is if you really had Yiras Shamayim, then you could see that this is true. If you don't see that this is true,
you would have seen that you had to investigate, and then by rational analysis you would know knowledge that this is true.
Right.
But how about the guy that did not? I mean,
okay, so it's a Tinoch Shenishba.
Of course, today we are so morons that by Rambam standard, I mean, in the times of the Rambam, that was possible to think that everybody should actually.
Okay, so that's a separate issue. In other words, if a person's a Tinoch Shenishba, he's somebody who hasn't been properly educated, and it's not his fault, and therefore he doesn't believe more than 13 principles, okay, so maybe he is Yiras Shamayim. But if a person has capacity to educate himself, of course he has to educate himself. Yeah.
What are we, now that we know that we're students...
Do you know that tonight was supposed to be Navi?
Yes.
Okay, as long as we remember that. Yeah.
Now that we know that, that we're stupid.
What?
Now that we know how dumb we are, what's the point of knowing that? Like, what am I supposed to take out of this year? That's what I just told Ariel. What is supposed to take out of this?
Yiras Shamayim.
You're learning in order to have a greater appreciation of God, His divinity, and the divine wisdom which He infused in the Torah, which is expressed by in terms of the divine wisdom and insight of Chazal.
Where does well you could do that without knowing you're stupid.
Oh, you mean I shouldn't have told you the truth?
No, I'm not saying that. I was asking why. You told it's not necessary to know how dumb I am to do what you just said. So, what? Like, I'm asking why. What's the purpose of your telling me?
No, so we can know the reasons why. Let's differentiate here. I didn't say anybody here is dumb. I said they're morons. There's a difference. The difference is, at least in my terminology, that whatever intelligence we have, and most of us here are quite intelligent actually, is dumbed down by all that distraction which we have.
We're learning to survive the generation in Yeshiva.
Yeah. So that's the idea. The idea to take out of today is that to try and diminish those distractions, recognize how corrosive they are, and try and diminish them, and then your intelligence, to whatever extent it exists, that most of us here have a reasonable amount of intelligence, although we're not going to be able to beyond the intelligence which is necessary to become, epic giants, but we can accomplish that much more. When I was 19 years old, so I was speaking to my Rosh Yeshiva at the time. So some of you have probably heard this. Actually, I don't think anybody here I've ever told this to. Since Torah has such turnover, it's always a new crowd. So I don't think any of you have heard this from me. But I was talking to him about I was thinking of switching yeshivas, and we were talking about the relative merits of this and that. So he says to me in the middle of the conversation, I don't even remember the rest of the conversation, but this stuck out in my mind forever, which is till now. And it says he said Bekofel. This is in Hebrew. He said Bekofel. Gadol adol lo tiyeh. Tamid chacham chashuv ken, aval lo gadol adol. So he says back offer. A gadol you're not going to be. A distinguished Talmid Chacham, yes.
Who said it?
My Rosh Yeshiva at the time.
That's a verse in the Bible, Rabbi.
What? Yes, it was.
How can some people just...
Yes, I thought that was a tremendous chutzpah. What does he have to say I'm not to go to be the Gadol Ador?
I think you are.
Yeah.
So I defend you.
Thank you. No, but he was right. He was right. Well, they should have told me that as a separate pedagogical issue. But he's right. Everybody has to know their talents and know what they can do with their talents.
How do some people
But
some people just have the bravado to say that to others?
That's a separate question. You're asking me how he had the right to say that to me. Okay? Okay, that's a separate question. Whether you should say that to 9-year-old and shatter him is one thing. 2 years later, I realized he was right. Right? And then I planned my life accordingly.
I have an answer. It depends. If he believes, but he doesn't care, he can say whatever he wants. As far as you want to be too happy. If he's a Chassid, he also doesn't care if you have too much Talmid Chacham or less Talmid Chacham. Most important thing to be able to Shem Simcha.
So no matter what, he was allowed to, he could have told it to me. Okay. Yeah.
It's just a Yirat Shamayim. I mean, I don't get too much Yirat Shamayim from learning like oxes goring cows.
One second. You have to define our terms here. Yirat Shamayim here doesn't mean that you're going to be more meticulously observe mitzvos or keep halacha. It means you're going to be inspired by the extraordinary wisdom and exhilarating thought process which is involved in this abstract learning, the conceptual learning. And it happens to be that oxen goring cows, even though it's a very mundane and perhaps weird topic, there's a lot of exciting thought process which goes into it. And this thought process is actually what is going to bring you Yirat Shamayim. When you learn through the sugya, which is directly related to that oxen goring cows, right? Bearing directly to that is the concept of rov, the majority. And where the hochim are monacha rov, where they follow majority in monetary matters. And chazaka, right? What you assume. And on what basis you assume things. What basis you can't assume things. And what's better, what's superior, rov and chazaka, and how it works. That process in and of itself is such a thrilling process that it's supposed to, and I think it usually does, for the person who's really involved in it, bring a person to an extraordinary appreciation of Hashem. That's what Rav Noach Weinberg says. He says that most yeshiva bachrim, their emunah is based on that which we say in davening, Tamur u kitov Hashem. Taste and you'll see that God is good. How do you taste it? You taste it by partaking of that wisdom.
I think you get much more.
You're right, because there's no template like the Gemara to show you these circumstances that you can't just be walking down the path next to the dorms at Orsameach and suddenly go click like that's what the Gemara meant, like without seeing the Gemara. Nobody's that smart to like just have these things evolve in their mind. Like I don't know, maybe some people are, but not me. And this Gemara, like, we learn it, and it just shows you these levels of profundity. And it's like amazing. They are.
Right, that's what Or Sameach Shita of Kiruv. For many, you know, it was a tremendous machlokas in Kiruv, which Or Sameach and Eish Torah. That's why Rav Noach Weinberg left Or Sameach. He was one of the founders of Or Sameach in Yerushalayim, and he left. Because
Why?
I'm about to tell you. I mean, you really have to be in front of the camera.
Can I?
Because in Or Sameach, the focus was and is on Kiruv through learning Gemara. And Noach Weinberg held that the Kiruv should be much more based on Jewish thought. In other words, on learning issues of Jewish philosophy, Jewish thought, and things like that.
I think he's right. Because otherwise, people.
I'm not here to debate the issue right now.
People don't take
Is that
official.
what they call Musar?
Yeah, and Musar, Machshava, all these things are included in that. So Hashkafa. There were other issues as well, like in Or Sameach to help. Have the Gemara, and then have him learn more Gemara, and more Gemara, more Gemara. But Noach Weinberg said, make him from, give him some knowledge, and send him out to do Kiruv. Right? And that's another difference of approach between Or Sameach and Eish Torah. But in any event, the Or Sameach, the system of Kiruv, is based on the assumption that if you put somebody in front of a Gemara, and he sees the wonders of learning Gemara, that in and of itself can make a person frum. And obviously it's somewhat successful.
Yeah, but very superficial. I mean, if you don't know...
Why is it superficial?
If you don't know this...
Why is it superficial?
Because you don't know the Jewish thought.
What do you mean don't know Jewish thought? You don't know Jewish thought.
People here don't know the basics. Even the basics they all know.
Listen, I don't want to get...
And I'm not talking about the basics.
It's not the point. What's my point? I'm not here to justify this curriculum or that curriculum. The point is that there is a system of Kiruv through the learning Gemara. It exists, and it works. Okay? Whether it's the best system, whether it could be improved upon, that's a separate issue. That's not what I was trying to address right now.
So, back to the issue of Gedolim and stuff.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about what about the Me'am Lois? Would he be considered for stardom?
He's a Sephardi.
Oh!
He's a Sephardi.
It's not
You just realized that.
He's not to be a gadol in the sense of.
He was a
great. But he was a compiler.
But he put his own opinion in there as well.
Rabbi, you got to be
I
able to
think
put it
so.
together, Rabbi.
I think it's just putting things together.
No. He also he interjects his own.
But there aren't.
Thinking.
It's a minor part of the book. Anyway, that's he's.
Well, he did it for the sake. I mean, so you're saying that he really didn't put much knowledge into it.
Right.
Well, the way he compiled it, however.
Right.
And he put in halacha.
Anyway, yes, that would make him in the.
Isn't he?
Put him in the category of Talmid Chacham Chashuv. Distinguished Talmid Chacham.
Wouldn't he be a posik though?
I don't
He put in
think.
a lot of.
I think he brought down a lot of halacha, but a posik is really somebody who Kapaskin Shas, but besides that, attacks new vistas of halacha. Right? Not just that he can tell you what it says, but there are new issues which have not been dealt with, which he deals with, or paves new pathways in Psak. That's what the great
Well,
posik.
he talks about things that were happening in his modern day, and especially some of those issues.
Okay, listen. Maybe I'm always. Maybe I'm always does make it. There's no.
Well, I mean,
there's no litmus
litmus.
test. Now, when I was a kid in yeshiva in Israel, 9th grade, I went to yeshiva in Tiv Meir in Yerushalayim. It's a Bnei Akiva yeshiva in Yerushalayim, and I had a scorecard to tell how great a Rebbe was. So if you had a certain kind of yarmulke, you got 0 points. A larger yarmulke, you got 1 point. If you had one of these huge old Litvish yarmulkes, you got 3 points. And if you had a snow jacket, you got 0 points. If you had a long jacket, you got 3 points. So that's how I could tell who was a god and who wasn't a god. So there's no such litmus test you can actually use in order to determine who was a god. The Beckhofer test, which I used to push, not this one, the later Beckhofer test, which doesn't work so well, was whether a person was considered capable of tackling the most severe area in halacha, which is to be matir naguna, a woman whose husband has disappeared, to find some leniency to allow her to get remarried. So
that's hard.
Sorry?
No, even Rav Moshe didn't do that by himself. No, he didn't.
Rav Moshe did it by himself.
So you think Rabbi Goran?
But something you always ask other people to participate with you because you don't want to take it all on yourself. But in a pinch, Moshe would have taken it on himself. In any event, they went to ask Reb Moshe those questions. They didn't go to ask Rabbi Tom, Rabbi Dick, and Rabbi Harry. Those questions.
Is that Kedushin?
Sorry, Yvonne's.
Rabbi, wouldn't you say that David Feinstein is more of is like a...
I don't want to get into this. This is not a good idea.
He's like...
you're Lowy Sider. I can't tell Lowy Siders about these things.
Oh, come on, he's like almost
mention
equal to his father. I mean, he's not equal to Halavai, but he's like...
He's not. Okay,
Oh, come on, he Paskins.
Never argues with Lower East Side about the Feinsteins. I'm not willing. Yes.
Rambam was sent over Rabbi Yehuda Navi, right?
What?
Rambam was sent over Rabbi Yehuda Navi?
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi?
Yeah.
I don't know if he was a defense or Rabbi Nasi. What difference does it make?
That's what it says in my word. Well, my point is, does that mean that he was also Spartan?
The Rambam?
No.
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi?
Yeah.
No.
I do.
Why not?
Okay, Rabbi Sai?
Thank you, Rabbi.